Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Borgman, and I'm the Director of Career, Leadership, and Professional Development here at Fairfield University. Today we're going to be discussing internships. Now, let's assume that your child has prepared their college level or professional resume and it's been reviewed and approved by a career counselor. What's the next step? Well, that's trying to find an internship. So we're going to explore the realities of internships and how you can encourage your children. So you might ask, why do an internship? More and more companies are using the internship as an extended interview. Really, this makes it more important for students to take advantage of an internship and as many as possible through their college experience. While 75% of the interns receive a full-time offer after they do an internship, that doesn't necessarily mean they are accepting them. Around 51% actually turn into conversions. Now, the next slide is going to give you some sense of what students say when they've been surveyed about their actual internship. You can see that some of them don't really know whether or not it's going to turn into anything, but the ones who do feel that they will be getting an offer don't necessarily think they'll be accepting it. So it's really important that you have conversations with your child about this so that you have a better understanding. One thing you want to also encourage is to get your child to have conversations with their supervisor at the site so that maybe they can begin the conversation whether or not they would be willing to consider them for a conversion, either while they're doing the internship or down the road, to keep in mind. So what does this mean for your child? The fact that you have your student doing so many different experiences says to an employer that they're really in the game. They're ready to hit the ground running and interested in doing as many things as possible. Gone are the days where you could say, well, don't worry, you worked hard during the school year, you can stay home, go to the beach, do whatever. It's really critical that your student get an opportunity in a business environment, whatever it might be. In the early years, it's very difficult for first year and second year students to get a really robust experience. However, there are a lot out there. And just being able to say that you've been in this mode for a while and to see what it's like to navigate in a professional setting really helps the student elevate their game. They can see what it's like to be a professional, and it also prepares them for an experienced junior and senior summers, really working in the industry that they're most interested in. So, if you remember the time of the typewriters, as I do, maybe some of you are actually past that, this might be an exaggeration. However, gone are the days where you would go into the Career Center and find a binder with an extensive list of job opportunities, internship opportunities. Also, it's really not like it used to be in terms of walking in and getting a slip of paper. Here, go call this person. They have an opportunity for you. If you don't blow the interview, it's yours. With the technology we have today, it is way more competitive. Thousands and thousands of applications come in for one job. And it's very cut and dry in terms of the credentials, how your resume looks, what kind of experiences you've had. So there are a lot of different processes that go through in terms of elevating whether or not someone's actually eligible for a job. Oftentimes students will come in and say, I've got a great personality. If they only would see that, let me talk to them. Unfortunately, first you have to get through the screening process. There are two ways to typically find an internship: through networking and the internet. The important thing is students should be looking at both areas. Networking is critical, but the internet is very important as well. They need to be on all the different sites. They need to be on social media. They need to be looking not just at the job sites, but the companies themselves to help them find their way. Networking is very much about relationship building. Going out, meeting people, starting dialogues, finding out where they got their jobs, who they know. It's about collecting information about the various people. How did they get into their positions? Maybe asking for suggestions on, how can I navigate your organization? Do you know people that might know people to get me into different areas? Networking really is bringing people a step closer to what we call the hidden job market. Networking is absolutely not about asking contacts if they can get you a job or an internship. Students are very quick to go straight to that, and they don't understand that they need to really develop relationships first, and that is critical. They also need to understand that it's not something that's going to happen overnight. They need to know that patience is critical. We find that students are very quick to push the panic button. Oh my gosh, nothing's coming together. And they also want very much to get immediate results. And that's just not a reality. So it would be great if you could reinforce that with your student. So, why network? 60 to 80% of the jobs found are found through contacts and connections with other people. Employers typically will hire people through referrals. And the reason why they do that is if they know who they're getting the referral from and they respect them, it helps them move along in the process, and it eliminates the need to weed through the thousands of applications. Does that mean that you don't have a chance if you don't have a network? No, absolutely not. Every day I see a student who applied to something without any connections and they secured a position. However, it helps significantly if you can leverage any contacts that you have. Overall, the most influential attributes for internship positions were the major, whether or not a student has had leadership positions at school or outside of school in some kind of volunteer organization, and also the grade point average. Encourage your students, while you want to have them to have the strongest grades possible, it's very important that they really shoot for that 3.0 and higher. Oftentimes we find that this will be the cutoff point for a lot of people to even consider an application. So where should they start? They should be contacting family members, finding out who Uncle Pete knows, who Aunt Sarah might know. They might be amazed, along with friends, parents, neighbors. Encourage them to chat with professors. They know many people right in their industry. Coaches, maybe they're former teachers from high school. Even people that they work with, in their part-time jobs or summer positions. We absolutely encourage them to network with alumni. The Career Center, use Twitter and LinkedIn as well. So this is quite a network that they should be considering. Their first stop should be Stags for Hire. That's our online job database, which is housed here on campus, and thousands of employers actually post jobs and internships because they want to see Fairfield students. It's amazing how many of our students don't use this very valuable resource. There are also general internship and job databases out there that they can look into. And I encourage people to use many different sources, not just rely on one. The more time and effort that is spent doing this, the better off they'll be. I often tell people, look, this is like a part-time job itself or a class. You have to do this consistently and really carve out time every week to focus on this process. Then there are industry-specific job sites that they should be exploring. Now, individual companies actually have career sites that students should be going to, and they should be going to the career page and looking for internships or jobs. Maybe they'll find a rotation program. That's a great opportunity for a student to go into an organization and rotate around in different departments to figure out what they like and don't like. LinkedIn is extremely helpful, not just to find job postings for specific companies, but also to find alumni who are in the different companies that maybe they can connect with and get advice, but also to see where some of the alums have landed with similar academic profiles. If a student finds that they're very interested in specific companies, they should be following that company on Twitter because they will often push out internship and jobs to Twitter. If you even tweet back, sometimes they will answer as well. We've had that experience here on campus where students have tweeted at a company and the company jumps right on it and starts a conversation. You never know. Some other strategies that you should encourage your students to take advantage of: going to career fairs here on campus and maybe other local fairs in your specific area. While the career fair for this semester has been completed, we find that a lot of the students make their initial contacts at the fair, start conversations, and over the years continue them. Many students have been invited to interview based on that initial connection right here on campus. They should be following us at our Twitter handle at Fairfield ACDC, and also follow on OrgSync all of the career-related opportunities that we put together for students. We have industry professionals come in and speak. We have alumni discuss how they got into their positions. We have workshops on building your resume, all sorts of things. So the events are happening. It's just a question of encouraging people to come and attend. Oh, and the other thing you should probably encourage is live conversation with people. Students often will try to avoid any kind of conversation if possible. They will text, they will email. This requires actually speaking. So have dialogues with them. Get them to stretch those skills. So internships for credit. You might want to consider this during the school year for your student or encourage them to do it. This can take the place of one of the courses, which actually frees up time so that they can take advantage of it. It requires supervision by a faculty member, and also they have on-site mentors. So someone's watching what they're doing, and it really is an educational experience. Now, if a student does an internship for credit, it requires that they meet with the internship director or the coordinator of internships for their specific major before they start the internship. If they start the internship before the conversation, there's a chance that it will not be approved. So keep that in mind. They must complete a minimum of 144 hours at the internship for 12 weeks. And typically they will do a paper and do an evaluation survey. Now keep in mind, if you have your child do an internship for credit during the summer, you will be required to pay for the credit. In some cases, 1 credit is possible, but they must discuss this with their coordinator at the beginning of the summer, once again, before they actually begin. Now, your child received the call, they got the interview. What are you going to do? You really want to have your child prepare for the interview. It is so important that they take the time to go over and research the organization, research what it is that the company does, the position they've applied for. If they don't understand what the position is, have them come and speak with someone in the Career Center. Or we can help find someone who will help them who's working in the industry right now. We have the most common interview questions posted on our website. They should be going through those so that they don't memorize answers. However, they're very comfortable when they are responding to an interview. They should meet with a counselor because we can go through the paces with them. We can do a mock interview. We can provide them insight into things they should be doing, should be asking. Oftentimes, as I said, students will say, well, I have a great personality. Well, that's super, but once you're in a stress situation where you're being interviewed, some of the questions they're not used to. And just going through it with people, practicing, that will make all the difference in the world. They should also have multiple copies of their resume on resume paper, ready to go. Now, I tell you this because oftentimes they won't come into our offices and speak about many of these topics. They do speak with you probably on a regular basis. So keep that in mind. Remind them to put the resume on resume paper, and also perhaps have them use a pad folio where they can take some notes. And yes, they need a suit. It's always amazing to me how many students are actually shocked when I tell them, well, you didn't get past the first round because you were not dressed appropriately. All of the students need a suit, including nursing majors. You know, if they have any questions about what a suit or what they could put together as a suit, they should come on in and we will help them. It doesn't have to be a Brooks Brothers or even, you know, the most expensive suit on the planet. Marshall's has some great first-time suits. Macy's has some amazing sales every year where you can get a couple at a fabulous discount. All you really need is that one to get you in the door and get you that first job. The rest will fall in place. So, once they get the internship, you want to reinforce to your student that they need to dress appropriately. They should go in and find out exactly how everyone else is dressing. Make sure they know it's not appropriate to wear open-toed shoes in every environment. Many companies want closed-toed shoes. A bare back. Many of the women have bare backs. They should be wearing a sweater. So just go over these things with them. Tell them to pay attention to their cell phones. They should be turning them off. They shouldn't be listening to headphones, looking at their Facebook and Twitter all the time. The employers pay attention to this, and they see whether or not the student's head is in the game, or if they're paying more attention to what's going on in social media and what their friends are doing. They should treat feedback as a gift. When someone tells you something to improve how you're performing, it's really for their own development. Sometimes people take that as a negative. It's all positive. If they didn't care, they wouldn't spend the time. They wouldn't advise them. They should always meet deadlines and tell them to go looking for something to do if they've run out of, they've finished out their assignment. They pay attention to the people who are really jumping up looking for more and really appreciate those interns who are looking at every second to find ways to make themselves useful. It's the intern who really can come in and help an employer and have them see what a great asset they would be. Those are the ones that are going to be invited back as a full-time hire or invited back as an intern the following summer. They will get noticed. So when the internship's over, your student really should send everyone a thank you note, specifically the supervisor. And sometimes it's nice, depending upon the relationship, you know, if they want to stop by with a box of candy or something, that always goes a long way. You also want to encourage them to periodically keep in touch with those people. Maybe your child didn't really care for that organization in terms of converting over to a full-time position. But by keeping in touch with them, they have contacts. See? Going back to the networking I was referring to. They are in a position to help them make connections in other organizations. And that's how it works. So things that you can do as a parent. Remind your child, once again, to send that thank you note. It goes a long way. Not just an email and handwritten note. That's the best. Keep in touch. You can offer to proofread resumes and cover letters. Share any information you might have about internships that you found in your own organization. Encourage your relatives to do the same. Talk to your child about professionalism and what it means, how to conduct themselves, and how to dress. Practice the interview questions with your child. You know, make it a round robin. Spontaneously ask them a question. So, describe yourself. See how they answer. Most of all, offer them support during what can be a very stressful time. It's frustrating not to get anywhere, but also ask them questions. When they're frustrated, find out just how many applications did you submit. I recently received a phone call from a parent who was disturbed because her child had applied to many job opportunities, internship opportunities on Stags for Hire. In doing a little bit of research, I found the child had actually applied to 3 positions. Well, that's not enough. And in speaking with the student, she'd only actually applied to maybe 10 through other job databases. This is something where it's a numbers game. It's got to be something that they keep submitting until things come together. And as I mentioned, it's more difficult for the younger students to get something really robust in their major. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult. So they need to understand, and maybe you can help them leverage their expectations. The things you shouldn't be doing. Please don't write the resume or cover letter for your child. This is an opportunity for them to learn how to do things. And remember, a resume that you would use is a little bit different than a resume a college student would be using because the education's up top. So just keep that in mind when you're assisting in the critique portion. Critiquing's fine. Writing, different story. Please don't make calls on behalf of your children to an employer, or go up to a job fair and say you know your child better than anyone. That doesn't go over very big. Don't apply to internships or jobs for them either. Please don't go on to Stags for Hire and apply. They need to be doing this for themselves. Occasionally we have parents show up at career fairs and they want to walk around with their students. That's probably not a good idea either. It does not send a good signal to the recruiter. And don't go on the interviews with your student. Fortunately, I haven't heard this happening with any of our stags. However, I have heard that it's happened at other schools. Probably not good. The other thing is, Fairfield is going to position your student to have the skills that they need to secure internships and full-time jobs. But we are not going to find the job for them. They have got to be doing this and working with us. But at the end of the game, it's up to them to actually be in the driver's seat and secure the position. Most of all, please don't forget that this is all part of the learning process, and it'll help your child understand how to look for jobs in the future, because more than likely they will secure many in their lifetime, as I know many of you have as well. So at this point, I would like to know if you have any questions for me.
We have a few questions that were emailed in. The first one, if my student does not have higher than a 3.0, should they not put a GPA on their resume at all?
Typically, if the student is lower than a 3.0, we keep it off unless the application specifies that the GPA should be on there. Similarly, if the GPA for the major is higher than a 3.0, you still don't put that on the resume unless the overall GPA is a 3.0. So for clarification, it's not until you hit that 3.0 that you actually can start putting all of your other GPAs on as well.
The next question, is it ever appropriate to nudge a prospective intern or job if the student has applied but not heard from them?
Sadly, because there are so many applicants to positions, employers are not as good as you would hope that they would be in getting back to students as to whether or not they've secured the position, but also whether or not they've been declined. I always encourage people to try and reach out just to follow up. You know, a simple email if possible to say, you know, I'm just checking in. It's been a while since we've spoken, and I remain very interested in the position. Is there anything I can offer you that will help clarify my candidacy for the position? There's nothing wrong with that.
The next question, should my child have their high school involvements removed from their, when should my child have their high school involvements removed from their resume?
Great question. First of all of the students with their resumes should have under their education only Fairfield University and that relevant information. Their high school information with the diploma and when they got the diploma, that should be removed. Even if your child has been at a prestigious school, if it's very important because they're going to be handing it out to people who went to that school, that could go down under additional information. A first-year student or a second-year student can, in fact, have some of their experiences on their resume just to show that they've done things. But after sophomore year, all high school information should be removed, unless, of course, they did brain surgery as high school students. But it's only about the 4 years that you're at Fairfield. Employers want to see how they've used their time and that they've been industrious. Have they been involved in activities? You know, what kind of part-time jobs, internships, activity, whatever. It's just college.
2 more questions. When should my child start going to career fairs?
I encourage students to start going as soon as possible. I'm encouraged. This year we had so many first-year students going through the doors. And while the employers may not necessarily like that, many of them do like to engage with the first-year students because they're then able to start networking with them. I like the fact that they go because it's a very spooky setup. You walk through the doors and you have in excess of 100 companies in there, and they're just right there looking at you. The more students go, the more comfortable they are with the whole process. So when it really is going to make a difference, they've already been through this rodeo. They don't have to worry about, you know, seeing what the floor plan looks like, knowing what to say to people. It's so much easier. And actually, most students who've gone through it many, many times start to enjoy it. And then they can really maximize it in their junior and senior year.
And the last question, how far gone is too far gone for my child to reach back out to an old intern employer? They interned with them 2 years ago, but did not keep in touch.
You know, it can't hurt if they left on good terms. It can't hurt for them to reach out and try to begin that connection again. If they don't hear back, obviously it's kind of a dead issue, but I'd give it a shot. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Great, those are all the questions.
Well, thank you, everyone. And here's just a little information that you might want to pass on to your child. And we're here at the Kelly Center to help them. And we encourage everyone to come see us many, many times in their 4 years. And actually, we will still support their needs post-graduation. Thank you for participating today.